Whether you're a traveler outside of France looking to visit Disneyland Paris for the first time and maybe see how it contrasts to Disney World, Disneyland, or if you're a French person and maybe you're curious to see some Americans' first impressions of your home park, this video is for you. I'm Lauren of Lauren Loves the Mouse. I am an American living in Paris with my French husband. I love Disney and I strive to be a shameless spreader of joy and magic through my experiences in the Disney parks. And one quick note about what this video isn't. It isn't going to comment on cultural differences between France and the US. Obviously, I have a lot of love and respect for both countries, both cultures, as an American who's living in Paris and married to a French person. And I also have my own positive and negative experiences with both culture, as any human does. And while it's impossible to fully separate the cultural environment in which the park exists from your experience in that park, I'm going to stray from doing that here. I'd much rather you have your own experiences in the park culturally, just take that in for yourself rather than me influence it in any way. And I think in this video, I really strive to share both positive and negatives, comparing and contrasting Disneyland Paris with Disney World, Disneyland, in a balanced way. So without any further ado, let's jump in. 1. Some versions of the rides at Disneyland Paris are better than the other versions of the classic rides at the other American parks. Haven't been to the Asian parks yet, and neither have my friends or family, so I'll have to come back for that compare contrast maybe one day. But I think, for example, Big Thunder Mountain is kind of known, right, to be just superior at Disneyland Paris. It's really fun, I think, to have some level of familiarity with the rides, but also be surprised and kind of come into it with as open of a mind as possible. I remember when my mom rode the Big Thunder Mountain at Disneyland Paris for the first time, she was blown away. Like, it is just so fun how you go under the water. You don't have to hold your breath, but you do go under the water. And just how long it is, how many little details there are. It's just so creative. Obviously, the dynamite scene is totally different, so you can get spoiled watching videos on the internet and, you know, go experience it at Paris for the first time, or you can go into it blind. But some versions are just better at the Disneyland Paris park. My one friend was really enthralled with Phantom Manor, especially comparing it to Haunted Mansion at Disney World. She thought it was just super detailed and spookier, maybe because it was in French and she doesn't speak French, I don't know, but she thought that was really incredible and like walked off with like her jaw on the floor. So that's really interesting to kind of compare, contrast, and see a lot of these like classic rides that we're familiar with at multiple parks are just better at Disneyland Paris, whether it's because it's a newer park from '92 or just its own flavor is just, in our opinion, better. I also think that Hyperspace Mountain, subjectively, is better than like Space Mountain at Disney World. The consensus from my American friends and family is that unfortunately the quick service food quality and breadth of options is a notch down from what you might expect at Disney World and definitely Disneyland. Obviously, these are just their opinions, but in their experience, the quality is just not what you would expect from France. Maybe everyone has had like too high of expectations for it being France and obviously known for its culinary landscape, but the food at quick services is just not quite as good as you might hope for. So I'm just saying that so you can maybe set your expectations and not be disappointed expecting like really quality ingredients everywhere you go at quick service restaurants. But that is generally the case. Like even the Mickey pizzas just don't seem to hit the spot the same way that they do even at Disney World. So take that for what you will. I will say also that my French husband is not as into Disney as me, but he's definitely learning about it and getting into it. And he really enjoyed our experience at Captain Jack's and thought that the ambiance, the experience of eating inside Pirates of the Caribbean, and the food quality was worth the price, and definitely for special occasions, if this is like your one trip, etc. worth it. So there is some variety there. And again, obviously everyone has different experiences, but that's the general consensus. My American friends and family have also witnessed and unanimously said that the caliber of the performing arts cast members is just unparalleled. Obviously, the Disney cast members everywhere around the world are just like, you know, in their own league, but there is just something different about the shows and the different performing arts opportunities at Disneyland Paris that is just incredible. And I think something that is really unique to Disneyland Paris compared to the domestic parks in America is the use of the stages around the castle. So obviously there's a castle stage at many of the parks around the world, including Disney World, but the way they have like multiple castle stages around, and you can be like in the center of them and see characters and performing arts people all around you is just totally different. And there's a different emphasis on the parades, I think, too. I think they are a can't miss. Like, often the parade of the day is like the highlight of my day. And definitely when there is a special parade, like for Halloween or Christmas or Million Splashes of Color, I think those experiences of having so many cast members around you is just unparalleled. It's the best. It just brings a smile to my face all the time. Another aspect that is a contrast to the American parks is that it's not as necessary to do the line skipping services here as it is in other parks, like for example, Disney World. That was my home park before moving here. And I think, you know, obviously at Disney World, it's a whole other ballgame, a whole other service to learn with lightning lanes and everything. But here it's called Premier Access Pass, and you can buy it for specific rides or you can buy it for the entire day. It's just a different way of kind of navigating that. But our experiences in general are that you don't need that quite as much as you would in the domestic parks. So I think if you can get there at rope drop, even not as a resort guest, you can get on one or two of the most popular rides quickly. Sometimes, I mean, I've often seen 15-minute waits at like Hyperspace Mountain or Big Thunder Mountain right at park open, even after the extra magic hour, like hotel guests have gotten their time in the parks. So I think you can see and do what you would like without those services. Obviously, it's helpful to have them, and if you can afford it, if that's your priority, go for it. But in general, I wouldn't assume that you need the line skipping services like I would assume as much in like Disney World, for example. But if it is your first time coming to Disneyland Paris, obviously give it some thought, but just don't assume that you need it because you might not, especially depending on how many days you're at the park. But we'll get back to that later. Okay, and another thing that all my American friends and family have noticed when coming to the parks for the first time here in Paris is that the general upkeep of the facilities is not like the same level of like, you can't have the same level of expectations as you would in the American parks. Now, I need to note this is like 0% anything against the custodial staff. I think they are amazing. I've seen them doing incredible work. They're so friendly, going above and beyond. It seems like more of a systemic issue that maybe there's different priorities with the higher ups there of what they choose for the staff to do. Just talking about like there might be paint noticeably peeling off of a building or in line for the bathroom. Half of the bathroom soap dispensers may not be working or faucets may not be working. Just things that you wouldn't expect to see in like a park like Disney World or Disneyland are sometimes happening. Like I'm not sure if maybe there's not enough staff to keep up with like the same upkeep and maintenance as there are in other parks. I'm not sure. Obviously, this is like a small detail and not at all going to impact your day, I hope, but it is just something to know and maybe have like different expectations about. Obviously, just being nitpicky at this point, like who cares if the paint is peeling? Not the end of the world, clearly, but something small to note. Number 6, there is a larger emphasis on characters at Disneyland Paris than even in some of the other parks in America. It seems that people of all ages really enjoy meeting the character. And while this hasn't been like a priority of my friends and family generally who have come to visit so far, I think it's been really a fun experience for me. I often just go to the parks alone. You know, I'm just a person by herself in her 30s, like visiting the parks, and I've had some really fun experiences having a longer time with the characters. So it does seem that the characters here at Disneyland Paris do take their time more with the guests, that they're not in as much of a rush. I'm sure they're still, you know, trying to make their numbers, meet as many guests as they can within the time that they have, but it seems like there's less of a rush and you can have like genuine, really fun encounters and have some really memorable experiences. The virtual queues for the princesses, for Stitch, will fill up like immediately in the morning. So there's definitely a lot of demand, but they also take their time with the guests. Maybe that's why it takes a little bit longer, I don't know, but it is also possible to be able to kind of like happen upon a character meet and greet and not have to wait a super long time if you're lucky. Like I've had an experience with Cowgirl Minnie out by the Cowboy Cookout barbecue restaurant where my husband and I just kind of happened upon the line when she had just maybe left for her break and came back, and we only had to wait like 5 minutes to meet her and had a really sweet interaction. So that is kind of a fun, different part. And also the characters speak French and English, the face characters. So that is incredible. I don't know how they do it, but they are talented. And for the last point of notes, I think that this is also, of course, very subjective, as everything is in this video, but I think at this current point, my friends and family have noted that it is possible to see and do most everything that they would like to do within both parks within one day. So, of course, this is subject to change. I think obviously the opening of the Frozen Land in the newly renamed Disney Adventure World will definitely change this as well, especially as more things continue to open in the future with the Lion King Land, all of that. It's going to become even more expansive, more to do, obviously. But I think as it stands right now, it is possible to see and do most everything within one day. That's all that I've had the luxury of doing with my American friends and family when they come to visit. We just have allotted one day, and everyone has been generally very happy with that, thinks it was the right amount of time. So of course, if you are coming from out of town and this is the main thing you're doing in Paris, of course you would want to allow more than one day. But if this is maybe part of a larger vacation, you're doing other things around Paris or France or Europe in general, it is totally fine to come for one day and you can see and do a lot. So I think if you especially come early for rope drop, you can see and do a lot in that first hour or so before the parks start to fill up more. And it's totally worth it. You can stay all day, you can stay for half the day, and you can see and do a lot within both parks. Obviously, it depends what your priorities are. Everyone's are different, but it has been a thing of note and worth sharing. So those are the general points of what my American friends and family have thought about Disneyland Paris, comparing and contrasting with the American parks. Let me know if you agree or disagree, if you have anything else to add. I'm curious to hear if this is just the experience of my American friends and family and like myself as well, or if other people have had similar thoughts and experiences. Obviously, it's a whole other world and also so similar to the American parks both. So curious to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, as always. I hope you have a wonderful day.